an artist, and I'm working with the relations and communication system as a scientist as well as a writer. And there is something you're missing. You're touching it a little bit. It is art is not born when you do it. Art is born in the eye of the beholder. The one who look at what you've done inside his brain or her brain, art is born. That's another dimension of art. You touch it a little bit about the human resources. You have to take in the human resources for the beholder. What kind of resources has he? Has the psychosocial questions. And that's another part of the scientist question. All human beings are different, and they look at art in different ways. You have to take in that in some way.
Absolutely.
And that was the point I was in. There's a three person. There's a scientist, there's an artist, producer, and there's a consumer as well.
So it's the subjective, your subjective opinion. And that's very important, because I think it's a combination of the subjective opinion and an objective reality.
Yes, I also have a question and a comment. First, maybe first the question. Not all contemporary art is dealing with beauty, and not all science is dealing with symmetry. So I think that we should even look at the other face of the moon, which is not symmetry, which is not beauty. And I would like to introduce something which you somehow put behind, even if it was quite clear in your talks. And it is the levels of investigation, the levels of understanding. I mean that, for example, if you go deeper in science, you do not see more, you just see different. What Francesco Saverio has shown is that if you go at 0.5 micrometers, you see something. If you go 120 micrometers, you do not see more, you see different. And this brings us to the concept of what is the language and what kind of abstractions is involved in the language. For example, going back to your description on how you enjoy the Santa Felicita painting of the Pontormo, Jacopo da Pontormo, you clearly showed that you studied muscles, and it's very honest from your side, it's very physics. But on the other hand, what Pontormo put in that painting is much different and much deeper and much far from muscles. First, he put on the skin of these figures, he put a sort of silk. So if you look at the painting, as soon as you enter Santa Felicita on the right, you must put €1 and then you see it for 3 minutes. You will see that you do not see the muscles, you do not see the skin, you see this sort of silk. Yeah. And these figures are like Martians, it's something which is not usual. And second, then you see another thing. You see that there is one force which is putting down all the painting on the right, and another force which is putting up. It is exactly what Francesco is showing. And if you go deeper, then you see something which is putting up. And the third thing that you can see in the same picture is the eyes. The eyes of the saints, the eyes of the people, they look at each other with very special triangles. Only one eye is not looking at each other and is looking at you. And you recognize it's Pontormo, is behind. So, going back to Francesco, what he has shown is that if you go deeper, you do not see more. You just see different. And at the end, it's true that you see only what you know. The problem that probably can be, in my viewpoint, somehow solved with the word catalyzing. To catalyze is a word coming from chemistry. you can catalyze a reaction in chemistry when you want not only to make it much stronger, but much quicker. Art can catalyze science, and science can catalyze art. It is what, for example, Leonardo did, or what some cubists and futurists did. Einstein, he clearly stated more than one times that he came easier to his conclusion about relativity thanks to the work of Cézanne and to the work of Picasso. And I think it's true, because they gave us another way to see reality and to see the world. From here to my question, how can you interpret this considering that contemporary art is not looking at beauty and is looking also at the contrary of beauty, what is ugly, what is unpleasant. Also here, you can see the beauty of a woman lying with a skeleton, and when she breathes, the skeleton goes up and down. That's beauty and its contrary. And for the science, there is the truth, there is the opposite of the truth, which are fighting. This is my question for you.
Right, well, I think beauty definitely, I mean, it was a bad word in art school for me. If you talk about beauty, you're naive, you're nuts, you know? You want to create something beautiful. How can you create something beautiful? You have to be completely naive to create something beautiful. Which I thought was a bit sad. But that's a very common thread within contemporary culture, contemporary art. And to be honest with you, I've been a rebel since day one. I mean, I got kicked out of the department of sculpture in the first year. I'm not saying I'm a mad rebel, I'm just saying, look, I'm just being honest with myself. That's not how I see things. And it's just that I'm a person of faith. I'm a person who believes in the human. I believe in love, to quote Bono. I believe in love. I really do believe in love. And I believe that there's a tremendous power there to elevate culture. And I just didn't buy the BS that was rammed down my throat by the faculty in the school. I just didn't buy it, and that's why they kicked me out. So I've continued on that path. And I have no problem with resisting the cultural threats. I mean, for me, it's a joy. I get a kick out of it. I get a kick out of it. I think it's fun. Once we approach it with mutual respect, because I love to discuss these things with other artists who have different opinions. Once there's a mutual respect, once we deal with each other in a positive way, and we use reason to dialogue, I think it can be really productive. I've learned so much. Coming from my perspective in the contemporary art world for the last 20 years, I've learned so much from other ways of thinking. And I think a lot of people have learned a lot from my way of thinking because I go against the grain. And I think it's really, really positive because I grow and they grow. But if we all go in the same direction, we don't question, because I think the biggest problem with contemporary culture is there's not enough people asking questions. Not enough people. There's too much Berlusconi TV. This kind of like brain dead TV where you have our reality TV where they're just numbing. There's a culture of boredom, which really needs to be shook. It needs to be resisted. I mean, Andrei Tarkovsky, the filmmaker who used to live here in Florence, he's a phenomenal character. He wrote a book on artistic creation, basically on making films. But it can be used to approach any artistic communication. It's called Sculpting in Time. And I advise it's a Texas Press, have the English version, Sculpting in Time. I advise anybody to read it because he is a fantastic